Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is GamesLinks, and just before I start, I do want to thank everyone for 1,000 subscribers. Granted, it's a little bit late. I do have exams to focus on, and I really do not have that much time. But today, it's a slightly different video because it's more of a discussion, and I am really bad at these sorts of videos, which is why I don't really do them in the past. But I do have something to say. So before I start talking about the DLC, I want to talk about basically Squad since 1.0. So, since 1.0, I remember a couple of years ago just waiting for, I think it's either 1.1 or it was 1.2 that added I think it was 1.1, that added a load of performance improvements and really just improved the quality of life for everyone. You could build bigger ships, basically you could just add more parts on your ship, and the game would run a lot smoother. Now, ever since then, Squad has really gone downhill. Their acquisition by Take-Two has really just ran them into the ground, because I feel like the deadlines that Take-Two probably imposes on Squad right now are a little bit too harsh, and so the game's really gone downhill since then. Now, I do want to recommend Shadowzone's video on technical debt for this, because he talks about it a little bit more, but just a little bit of a recap. Ever since 1.3, it's been a bit noticeable. So basically they've just been reskinning a load of parts. They have been fixing bugs, and that's good. They have added a couple things like Delta V indicators, better maneuvers, and that's basically it since 1.3, which is, was it 1 or 2 years ago now, I think? So they're adding things like, I'm going to focus specifically on the part revamps, because that seems to be what all their time's been spent on. You know what else can do that? Mods. Mods can do that. I don't want to forget about the console players. I know they will benefit from this a lot more than us PC players do, but they've just released 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, and then Restock comes around and does it all for them. And I love Restock. I do. It's a really good mod. But Squad's just been wasting their time. They really have on the whole reskins. Now, anyway, that all aside, I do want to now talk about and focus on the DLC, because that's what this video is mainly about. So, we're going to start off just by reading down their forum thread. So it's called Breaking Ground, and it's all about exploration and science. Now, first we have robotic parts, and I do like this. Inferno Robotics was a mod, which I think it's supposed to be for 1.3. It does still work in, well, I last tried in 1.6, but it doesn't work brilliantly. There are a couple problems. So hopefully the stock version of this should be a little bit more stable. I do like how they're promoting the creativity, how this can be used. Obviously these crafts will have no actual function on like the terrain of another planet, but I do like the applications of like the hinges that you can use, and how you could have, there is a propeller plane somewhere along, I think it's down here, there's a propeller plane, and that's cool. I like that in the stock game now. But I want to focus on the surface features. So this is all the DLC, and it will cost, I think it's $15. I think it's $15 rather than £15. I'm not sure which currency they use, and it's probably dollars. But scattered across the Kerbal system, you'll find interesting surface features like mineral formations, meteors, craters, and even more curious planetary features. Well, even more planetary features. And all this can just be condensed to terrain scatters. It's just a fancy word for terrain scatters, which basically means the rocks and trees you already have in the game. And they are charging money to add rocks and trees. No, not really rocks and trees, but they're charging money to add more of these. And I really believe the models for these should be in the stock game. Now, one of the moderators misquoted and completely took one of my comments out of context, and this is quite common for the moderators to do this. I really do not like the moderators on the KSP forum. I really don't, but that's not part of this video, and there's only a limited amount of shade you can throw on them before they hate you, and I'm pretty sure they hate me by now. Anyway, so there is functionality that surrounds them. For example, you can perform science experiments on them, you can probably analyse them, which means these should be getting a collider, which is nothing new. Copernicus already does this, so that's completely pointless. So they'd be getting a collider in the stock game, which means you can interact with them, crash into them or whatever, but that's nothing new, that's been done for ages. The actual good part comes from the functionality of them. Now, there are already rocks and trees in the game, so I assume with this DLC you'll be able to interact with them. The planets in the stock game are so neglected. They haven't been updated since forever. They're really neglected, they're just barren and boring, which is kind of why I started making planet mods in the first place. I just really hate the stock planets. Like, for example, Kerbin is the best looking stock planet, but Squad didn't make Kerbin. So, Squad took Kerbin from the Libnoise example planet, which is online, so I'm not giving them credit for that. The most interesting planet is probably either Juno or Dres. I'm not really sure. I just don't like them. They don't look good. They don't look good at all. They're really boring. And I feel like because they're so boring, and I'm sure a lot of people can agree with me on this, because they're so boring and not fun to explore in the slightest, adding this and locking it behind a DLC is not a good idea. Like GPP, and I don't want to mention mine in this because that makes me sound like pompous or whatever, but like, I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of them locking it behind a DLC because a mod can add it for free. Like, I do it in my planet mods. I think Galileo's Planet Pack adds their own custom scatters, and so Squad charging for this really doesn't make sense, because someone can just come along, make a mod that adds these to the stock planets in the stock game, and so there's no point paying for them in the DLC. So you should really just be paying for the functionality, and so I think the model should be in the stock game. And it's not a case of I want stuff for free, because I'm not going to buy the DLC anyway. Now there's a couple more stuff that you can do, like deploying the science, and I really do like this. I do like how you can set up experiments on the planet like this and interact with them and get science a slightly different way, which might be a bit more fun. But other than that, not a fan. And $15 for that, I mean, I think some mods add some sort of, like, I can't remember what it's called, I think DM Magic or something like that. There are science mods that add a lot of stuff like this, so really, you're not paying for much. What you're paying for, like, the functionality behind the terrain scatters and the hinges, which, oh wait, a mod does that as well. So in fairness to them, I do appreciate the effort they're putting into this. I do like how they're trying to make the game more fun, and they are trying to improve the planets, but they're just doing it the wrong way. They could be spending their time on optimizations, they could be spending their time working on multi-core support. I would really appreciate if Squad actually optimised their game, rather than just reskinning parts and adding stuff that mods already add. There is so much more valuable use of their time that they could be putting into this right now. And I have held off on making a video like this for a while because I'm really bad at discussing stuff like this. But I feel like with the release of this new DLC on the 30th of May, I do want to address some points. Hopefully you can see my reasoning behind this. Obviously there's going to be some people who are going to be like, yeah, Squad deserves this more money and it's good. And in fairness, they probably do. And there is... So they do have to keep their sales up, and so at a point there's going to be no more people buying the game because loads of people already have it, so they want to buy the DLC, and I do see the reason behind that, but the DLC should not be what they're doing here. Like, there's not much gameplay added here except interacting with these experiments here. Some mods already add these hinges, some mods already add these science experiments. The only actual thing you're getting is interacting with these rocks. And, like, $15 to interact with a rock. It's not something that I'm interested in. Arguably, some of this should be in the stock game, or just not done at all. So thank you guys for watching. I really hope I didn't ramble too much in that video, because I'm not very good at these discussions. It is the first one I've done since, like, one ages ago. No one will actually know about it. It was ages ago. But yeah, so hopefully you can see my reasoning behind that, because I do have quite some strong feelings about the whole planet as a planet modder myself. So yeah, hopefully you can agree with me there, and if you don't, I would like to hear why, because there are two sides to the argument. Squad needs the money, but I feel like what they're doing is a complete waste of time and just not worth paying for. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in a more positive video in the future.